Hey, Infidelity Love Lies fam, it's Emily. And honestly, it feels surreal to even be saying this out loud, to finally unpack what truly happened. Because not that long ago, I truly thought I had it all. The dream guy, the perfect life, the whole happily ever after package. We're talking magazine cover perfect. And then, one rainy night, I woke up in a hospital bed, barely clinging to life, just skin and bones having passed out cold on my living room floor. My body was failing, my mind was breaking, and it was all because of a charming smile, a priceless Patek Philippe, and a woman old enough to be my mother. Seriously. You think you know betrayal? I was married to a master manipulator, a pathological liar who systematically gaslit me, starved me of my sanity, until I literally collapsed from his psychological warfare. His betrayal wasn't just about cheating, it was a calculated campaign that nearly killed me. And the fight to expose him, and his business partner mistress, a powerful VIP client, wasn't just about divorce. It was about clawing back my sanity, my identity, and every shred of truth he tried to bury. This isn't some fairy tale. It's the raw, unfiltered account of how I went from living a picture-perfect lie to fighting for my very survival, and how in the wreckage I started to build something real. That night, the rain was relentless, drumming against the windows like 1,000 tiny fists, each beat echoing the pounding in my head. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the old house. Ryan wasn't home, of course. The house felt vast and empty, filled only with the echoes of my own despair, my own unspoken pleas. I remember feeling a crushing wave of exhaustion wash over me, a weariness that went beyond mere physical fatigue. It was a soul-deep exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness that demanded I simply give up. I must have been standing in the living room staring blankly at the swirling patterns of rain on the glass when my knees buckled. I don't remember the act of falling, just the sudden jarring jolt of hitting the cold, hard floor. Darkness enveloped me, a silent, blessed release from the endless pain. It was my neighbor, dear Mrs. Gable, who saved me. She noticed our lights were still on, unusually late for a stormy night, and something in her kind, knowing heart prompted her to check. She found me there unconscious on the floor, pale and skeletal, barely clinging to life. She called for help immediately, her voice urgent and laced with fear, and that night she quite literally pulled me back from the brink of oblivion. I owe her my life, and more importantly, my sanity, for her quiet act of kindness. That was the moment I realized I had hit rock bottom, that I had been pushed to the very edge of the abyss. When I woke up in the hospital, the feeling was surreal, a bewildering mix of weakness and an almost clinical detachment. My body felt alien gaunt, a testament to the sheer physical toll of emotional abuse. My mind, though, was starting to clear like a murky pond slowly settling to reveal the bottom. It took weeks, maybe even months, for my body to recover from the sheer exhaustion and profound malnutrition that had consumed me. But the real healing, the true awakening, began after I was discharged in the quiet supportive space of a rehabilitation clinic. Slowly, painstakingly, the pervasive fog in my mind began to clear. With the physical nourishment and the steady, gentle guidance of therapists, my spirit began to stir, tentatively at first, like a fragile bird testing its wings. I started therapy, talking through the tangled web of manipulation, acknowledging the deep, corrosive betrayal, and slowly, painstakingly reclaiming my own narrative, my own truth. The clarity that came with recovery was like seeing the world in full color after years of living in a desolate black and white. It was both a horrifying and liberating revelation, a stark awakening to the depths of deceit I had endured. It was like a veil was being lifted, and I was finally seeing the distorted reality I'd been living in. The final, undeniable blow, the one that shattered my naive certainty and left me reeling, was the fountain pen. This was before the collapse, but it was the point where the fear began to consume me, where I started losing myself. It was exquisite, crafted from dark, gleaming wood with an intricate silver inlay. And etched into that silver were two letters intertwined, an R and an H. Ryan and Harrington. My blood ran cold, a wave of nausea washing over me. I picked it up, my fingers tracing the icy metal, the incriminating initials, and it felt like holding a smoking gun, a tangible piece of my worst fear. Ryan? I said, my voice thin, trembling despite myself, a desperate plea for an explanation. What's this? He barely looked up from his tablet, that charming smile still fixed. But his eyes held a flicker, a micro-expression I couldn't quite decipher. Irritation? Guilt, contempt? Oh, that old thing. He waved it off as if it were a cheap novelty worthless. Just a small token from Mrs. Harrington. A thank you for closing that big deal. She's sentimental, you know. A business gift, Emily. Nothing more. You're overthinking it. That phrase again. You're overthinking it. He always knew how to make me feel like I was the problem, the paranoid wife, the one with an overactive imagination. And God, how I wished I was. I mean, who would betray their wife with someone practically their mother's age? It sounded absurd even to me. But deep down, the knowing started to bloom cold and relentless, wrapping around my heart like a creeping vine. The unease in me festered, growing like a relentless weed in my carefully tended garden. I tried to ignore it, to busy myself with my plants, to prune away the unpleasant thoughts. But they just kept growing back, choking the fragile piece I desperately clung to. Now, for those of you wondering how Emily, a woman who genuinely thought she had it all, ended up near death on her living room floor, here's the twisted backstory. When Ryan and I first got married, it was like stepping into a movie. He was everything I thought I wanted, and honestly, everything society tells you to want. He was handsome, incredibly charismatic, the kind of guy who commanded every room he walked into. His career in finance absolutely soaring, even at 37. He knew how to charm, how to make people feel like they were the most important person in the world. And me, I was head over heels, utterly convinced I'd hit the jackpot. He was so attentive, so seemingly devoted. He'd bring me flowers, plan spontaneous weekend getaways, whisper sweet promises about our future, mapping out a life that sounded like pure bliss. My friends adored him. My family thought he hung the moon. Everyone said I was lucky. And for a long time, that picture was all I saw. It was flawless, airbrushed, destined for a frame on every mantelpiece. But you know how life really goes? It's not a perfectly posed photo op. The cracks started subtly, like hairline fractures in a masterpiece you don't want to believe are real. Ryan's career became more demanding. Late nights turned into early mornings. VIP clients, babe. He'd say, always with that reassuring smile, that familiar squeeze of my hand. Building our future. They demand FaceTime. And among these VIPs, one name kept popping up with increasing frequency: Mrs. Harrington, a major investor he'd explain essential to his firm's success. She was nearly 60, almost my mother's age, which in my naive head was a bulletproof vest against any suspicion. I didn't think anything of it. Business is brutal. A man like Ryan had to put in the hours, make the sacrifices. Right, I told myself I was being supportive. Then came the gifts. Not for us, not for our home, but for him. And these weren't just tokens of success. These were excessive. Out of reach even for his impressive salary. I remember the watch. A limited edition Patek Philippe gleaming on his wrist, easily worth tens of thousands of dollars. My jaw actually dropped. It was obscene. When I asked, his smile never faltered, a practiced, impenetrable mask. Just a client appreciating my hard work, darling. It's nothing. His words were like a balm, yet the disquiet lingered, a buzzing under my skin. Then the suits started appearing. Custom-tailored European masterpieces, fabrics I'd only ever seen in high-fashion magazines, with intricate, almost invisible hand-stitched details. He'd wear them with this new, almost arrogant confidence, a glint in his eye that wasn't quite familiar. It was as if he was transforming not into a better version of the man I married, but into someone else entirely, a more polished, distant, and ultimately unreachable stranger. Business gifts, Emily. He'd chuckle, that dismissive sound, making me feel small, irrational. To keep our VIP clients happy. You wouldn't understand the intricacies of high finance relationships. He always knew exactly how to twist my words, to make me doubt myself, to make my valid concerns feel like petty jealousy. And God, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe our perfect picture wasn't cracking, but the cracks were there, and they were growing, threatening to swallow everything. The unease in me festered, growing like a relentless weed in my carefully tended garden. I started losing sleep night after night. My mind, once clear and focused, became a relentless loop of doubt, replaying every dismissive comment, every late-night arrival, every subtle shift in his demeanor. He was physically there, a handsome shell moving through our home, but emotionally, spiritually, he was miles away in a world I couldn't access. My nights were filled with restless tossing and turning, my brain a frantic carousel of what-ifs and creeping fears. My appetite vanished, replaced by a constant sickening knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was withering both physically and emotionally, becoming a hollowed-out version of myself. And then the real control started. It wasn't just about his absences or his secrets anymore. It was about my life. He started questioning my medication, demanding to know what I was taking, why. He took over our finances completely, saying I didn't understand the market. He subtly, expertly started cutting off my connections. My friends, my usual social outlets. Slowly, gently, he'd create reasons why I shouldn't go, why they weren't good for me, why I should just stay home. I felt myself being isolated, trapped in the very home I once believed was my sanctuary. Every corner of my life felt micromanaged, suffocated. I was losing myself piece by painful piece, like sand slipping through my fingers. The fear gnawed at me bit by bit. I knew I needed help desperately. My gut screamed for someone to see what was happening. I turned to his father, Mr. Edward. He was old-school principled, and Ryan still held him in some regard. He was the one who in the past had managed to pull Ryan back from the brink of youthful recklessness. I drove to Mr. Edward's house, my heart heavy with dread, yet clutching onto a fragile flicker of hope. I laid it all out for him. The late nights, the lavish gifts, the incriminating pen, my growing fear, the relentless psychological control. He listened patiently, his gaze unwavering, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I saw genuine concern in someone's eyes. He didn't dismiss me. He listened. He believed me. And for that I was eternally grateful. To my genuine surprise, Mr. Edward confronted Ryan. He must have used his influence, his patriarchal authority, because for a brief time it actually worked. Ryan seemed to snap back to reality. He came home early, he bought me flowers, he held me close, and swore remorsefully that he had been overwhelmed by work pressures, that he had lost his way for a moment. He promised to rebuild our relationship, to dedicate himself to me, to us. He even showered me with gifts, small thoughtful things like a new set of gardening tools, a rare succulent. I had always wanted a book of poetry. They felt like genuine gestures, and I starved for his affection, and truth clung to them with a desperate, aching tenderness. I poured all my energy into those fragile hopes. For exactly 1 month I believed him. We went on dates, we talked for hours like we used to, we laughed again. It felt like we were falling in love all over again, patching up the cracks, meticulously rebuilding that perfect picture. I convinced myself that my initial suspicions were unfounded, that it was just a rough patch, a momentary stumble, that Ryan truly loved me. That fleeting hope was a fragile thing. Yes, but I nurtured it carefully like a delicate seedling, watering it with every tender gesture from Ryan, every shared smile. But the fragility of hope became starkly, brutally clear when Mr. Edwards suddenly passed away. It was unexpected, a swift and cruel illness that took him from us in a matter of weeks. The man who was Ryan's only anchor, his only true moral compass, his last shred of decency was gone, and with his passing, Ryan completely unraveled. He plunged headfirst into his relationship with Mrs. Harrington, openly, defiantly, as if shedding the last vestiges of his old life and any pretense of loyalty to me. He became utterly cold towards me, his eyes devoid of warmth, replaced by a calculating frost. His psychological control intensified, tightening around me like a boa constrictor. He gaslighted me mercilessly, twisting my words, making me doubt my own sanity, my own perception of reality. "You're imagining things, Emily. You're being paranoid. Why are you always so dramatic?" His voice, once so soothing, became a weapon, chipping away at my self-worth, making me feel worthless, invisible, insane. Our home, once a sanctuary, became a desolate cage. The vibrant colors of our life together faded into a dull, monotonous gray, a bleak landscape of despair. I was losing myself piece by painful piece, like sand slipping through my fingers. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford, my nights filled with restless tossing and turning my brain a frantic carousel of what-ifs and creeping fears. My appetite vanished, replaced by a constant sickening knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was withering, both physically and emotionally, becoming a gaunt, ghostly shadow of my former self, my reflection in the mirror, alien and frightening. My garden, the only place I felt peace, became my prison yard, a place where I just existed, watching the weeds take over my once beautiful plants. And then the collapse. The reckoning and rebirth. When I finally woke up in the hospital, the feeling was surreal, a bewildering mix of weakness and an almost clinical detachment. My body felt alien gaunt, a testament to the sheer physical toll of emotional abuse. My mind, though, was starting to clear like a murky pond, slowly settling to reveal the bottom. It took weeks, maybe even months, for my body to recover from the sheer exhaustion and profound malnutrition that had consumed me. But the real healing, the true awakening, began after I was discharged in the quiet, supportive space of a rehabilitation clinic. Slowly, painstakingly, the pervasive fog in my mind began to clear. With the physical nourishment and the steady, gentle guidance of therapists, my spirit began to stir tentatively at first, like a fragile bird testing its wings. I started therapy, talking through the tangled web of manipulation, acknowledging the deep, corrosive betrayal, and slowly, painstakingly reclaiming my own narrative, my own truth. The clarity that came with recovery was like seeing the world in full color after years of living in a desolate black and white. It was both a horrifying and liberating revelation, a stark awakening to the depths of deceit I had endured. It was like a veil was being lifted and I was finally seeing the distorted reality I'd been living in. And then something truly extraordinary happened. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I reached out. I sought out David. David, my old friend from the orphanage. He was the one who had loved me fiercely unconditionally when we were just kids navigating a harsh, bewildering world together. We had lost touch after I left for college, swept up in the currents of adult life, and I had often wondered about him, but I'd been so utterly consumed by Ryan's suffocating world that I hadn't made the effort to reconnect. Part of me, the part Ryan had systematically broken down, felt unworthy of reaching out, too ashamed of the mess my life had become, too afraid of judgment. But now I found him, and when we met, it was as if no time had passed at all. He listened, truly listened, with an intensity and compassion I hadn't experienced in years, as I poured out the entire painful, humiliating truth. There was no judgment in his eyes, no disbelief, no, "I told you so." Only unwavering support and a quiet, steady strength that felt like a lifeline. He didn't tell me what to do, he didn't offer empty platitudes or facile solutions. He just sat there, holding my hand, his presence a comforting anchor in the storm of my emotions. And when I was done, his voice calm and firm, imbued with a quiet power, he simply said, "We'll fix this, Emily. Together. You're not alone anymore." And we did. David, with his quiet determination and incredible resourcefulness, became my silent partner in reclaiming my life. This wasn't about revenge for me, not anymore. It was about justice, about exposing the truth that had nearly destroyed me, about ensuring he couldn't do this to anyone else, about setting myself free from his toxic hold. It was about getting my power back. David painstakingly collected the evidence. Photos of Ryan and Mrs. Harrington dining intimately in exclusive, dimly lit restaurants, their hands clasped under the table during what Ryan so casually dismissed as business trips. Videos, grainy but irrefutable, of them entering luxury hotels together not just once, but multiple times, always in different cities, always under the guise of conferences or client meetings. He even managed to piece together parallel travel logs, cross-referencing Ryan's meticulously crafted business itineraries with Mrs. Harrington's known whereabouts, revealing a damning pattern of deception, a web of lies so intricately woven it was almost genius had it not been so utterly cruel. The evidence was irrefutable, overwhelming, and utterly damning. It was the undeniable proof I needed, the tangible truth that would silence the gaslighting, for good, not just for me, but for the world. We didn't go to the tabloids. We didn't want a public spectacle, a circus of scandal. We wanted justice, quiet and precise, aimed directly at the heart of their deceit. David sent the entire dossier of irrefutable evidence to two key recipients: Mrs. Harrington's husband, a powerful and influential man in his own right, known for his formidable legal team and an undeniable reputation for protecting his family's honor, and the board of directors at Ryan's prestigious financial firm, where his golden boy reputation was his most valuable asset. The fallout was swift and devastating, a meticulously constructed house of cards, collapsing in a single brutal gust of wind. Mrs. Harrington's husband was understandably enraged beyond measure. He launched an immediate and aggressive legal and financial campaign against Ryan, targeting every asset, every illicit gain Ryan had accrued through his schemes, every loophole he thought he'd exploited. He used his immense power to systematically dismantle Ryan's career and finances. At the same time, Ryan's company, facing undeniable proof of misconduct and a severe reputational risk that could damage their brand for years, launched an internal investigation. With the overwhelming evidence of infidelity and financial fraud, Ryan's dismissal was swift and absolute. He was suspended, then fired, his name now synonymous with scandal and disgrace, his once promising career in ruins. The man who had once glided through life on charm and lies was now left with nothing but the wreckage of his own, making a hollow shell of his former self. I filed for divorce. And this time I was strong. With David's quiet support, his unwavering belief in me, and the dedicated legal team he helped me find, I was a force to be reckoned with. I secured all my legal assets, every penny that was rightfully mine, every part of my life he had tried to control and diminish. I didn't want his tainted money, his ill-gotten gains, but I would not let him steal what was justly ours, what I had built before him, what I needed to rebuild my future. I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, a fighter. Ryan lost everything: his reputation, his career, his meticulously constructed facade. He was left with nothing but the hollowness he had so expertly built around others, a mirror reflecting his own emptiness. He got what he deserved, and though it brought a quiet satisfaction, the true victory was mine. After the dust settled, after the last legal paper was signed, after the final chilling silence from Ryan, I sold the old house. It held too many painful memories, too many ghosts of a life that was never truly mine, never truly real. It was a cathartic act, tearing down that perfect picture piece by painful piece, feeling the immense weight of the past lift with each closing door. With the proceeds from the sale and my rightfully reclaimed assets, I moved to a new city. A city where no one knew my past, where I could start fresh, where the air felt cleaner and the sunlight felt warmer, as if washing away the lingering residue of deceit and despair. I bought a place with a huge backyard, a blank canvas for my new garden. David came with me. Not as a lover, not immediately, for I still needed time to heal, to rebuild the trust within myself, to understand who I was outside of Ryan's shadow. My heart was still raw, still guarded, but he came as a steadfast friend, a silent guardian, a comforting anchor in my new, uncertain landscape. He never pushed, never demanded. He simply was there, a quiet, unwavering presence, understanding my need for space, for time, to truly mend, to rediscover my own rhythm, my own voice. He helped me find a new home, a small house with a sprawling backyard, perfectly suited for a new garden, a new beginning. And slowly, meticulously, I began to cultivate new life from the soil, just as I was cultivating a new life for myself, nurturing fragile seedlings into vibrant, resilient plants. My heart, once so shattered and guarded, began to tentatively open. Not with the impulsive, naive trust of my younger self, the girl who believed in perfect pictures and dazzling smiles, but with a newfound wisdom, a deep understanding of what true connection really meant. I was learning to choose with open eyes and a healed heart, recognizing the subtle signs of authenticity, the quiet beauty of genuine care, the profound peace that comes from being truly seen. David was still there, quietly supportive, always ready to listen, always ready to offer a steady hand, a comforting presence. He understood my journey, my need for space, my need to rebuild. And as I healed, as I blossomed in my new honest life, I realized that the true love wasn't the dazzling, deceptive kind, the kind that promised the world and delivered only emptiness, but the quiet, steady, unwavering kind that had been there all along, patiently waiting for me to see it, to truly appreciate its profound, understated beauty. It wasn't about the grand gestures or the glittering facade. It was about the quiet understanding, the shared silence, the unwavering respect, and the profound, comforting joy of being truly seen and truly loved for who I am. So that's my story. It's a raw reminder that sometimes the most Instagram perfect lives hide the darkest, most twisted secrets, but it's also a testament to the incredible, fierce resilience of the human spirit. Don't ever let appearances fool your heart. Don't let someone else's carefully constructed narrative define your worth or make you doubt your own sanity. You are not crazy. You are not too much. Your instincts are valid. And if someone is trying to convince you otherwise, run. Now. Only when you're brave enough to look straight into the bitter truth, no matter how painful, no matter how much it shatters the illusions you once cherished, can you truly find the happiness that's meant for you. Because sometimes the most devastating endings are just the beginning of your real story, the one where you finally become the hero you were always meant to be. I hope my story resonates with some of you out there. Have you ever experienced something similar where the picture-perfect exterior hid a darker truth? How did you find your path to healing and rediscovery? Or what are you doing now to break free? Please share your stories in the comments below on the Infidelity Love Lies channel. We're all in this journey of life together, navigating its complexities and seeking our own truths. And there's so much strength and wisdom we can find in each other's experiences. Thank you for listening, and remember, your story absolutely fundamentally matters.